So for someone who is just now maybe hearing about this, maybe for the first time or doesn't know much about it, what is the definition of Mercury retrograde? What's a basic explanation of what it is?
What the basic explanation is that Mercury seemingly, it doesn't actually slow down, but it seems to, from our point of view, because Earth and Mercury move at much different paces, it still causes that slowdown. We can really see that, oh, okay, this is an opportunity to slow down, to go within and listen to that inner voice, to really reassess, reorganize, get rid of things that are cluttering your space, things that are cluttering your mind too, and reorganize things and refresh things.
Hi, I'm Glennis Woods Mullins, and I love to help women to vibe, to be more vibrant, intuitive, beautiful, and empowered in midlife. So come on, let's vibe.
Hey, welcome to the podcast. It's great to have you here. I'm a great fan of finding out new and wonderful ways to help women to vibe, to be more vibrant, intuitive, beautiful, and empowered. And I really think midlife is an opportunity for women to awaken to all the possibilities of the ways that they can get more acquainted with themselves and the world around them. That's why I'm so interested in having Sheila Hawkins with us today. Sheila Hawkins is a productivity coach. That's not the right. I'm going to have, what's the name? Oh, she's a personal productivity alchemist, but she also is very wise when it comes to things around astrology, energy, and intuition. And we got into a conversation one day about Mercury retrograde. And I asked her, what's the deal with Mercury retrograde? I keep hearing about it. And she was saying that women in their 40s are beyond or paying more attention to the idea of their energy, their intuition, and their alignment, which is really what Mercury retrograde is all about. So I am really excited to discuss the different kinds of shifts and disruptions that tend to stir up during retrograde. So thank you so much, Sheila, for being on the V.I.B.E podcast. It's great to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you. It's my pleasure.
It's interesting because I feel like I never really heard of Mercury retrograde until maybe a few years ago. And then I feel like it must be a trending topic because now everybody's talking about it. Because I'm a layperson, okay? I'm not really into astrology a lot or anything.
Right.
Issues with it, but I just don't know a lot about it. I'm ignorant when it comes to all of that. But lately, it seems like over the last few years, everybody, like people like me, are talking about it. So first of all, tell us a little bit about you and how you came to start to study things like Mercury retrograde, especially when it comes to what it is you do with productivity.
Wow. I was in a position where didn't have a job, got laid off, and a friend said, why don't you do what you've always done? And I was completely puzzled by what she meant by that. And she said, you have ways of showing people how to do things, how to get organized, how to stay that way. And that's what I started. When I started my business, that's what I started out doing. I set up systems to help people stay organized and productive. And over the years, it shifted into just a narrower focus on productivity. So developing personalized systems for supporting people throughout their days, throughout their weeks, to actually be able to get things done and finding just those right tools that fit them personally versus that one size fits all approach to productivity. That doesn't fit. You can't that's like putting on somebody else's shoes. That doesn't work. That really doesn't work. And for me, astrology has been something that I've always been interested in and followed it for years and was really into it pretty deeply, I'd say in my 20s, and still kept up with it and whatnot. And the last maybe 10 years or so, I've started looking at it from the business angle because it impacts us business-wise too. And Mercury is my ruling planet. I have an interest there as well. And for me, I see the ways that it really tends to impact business. And so for me, it's okay, I have to keep up with it. I have to keep looking at it to see what it's doing this time, so to speak, when the retrogrades come up.
So, what kinds of shifts or disruptions do people experience in their daily lives whenever Mercury is in retrograde?
We hear about all the things, of course, that happen, but when it especially when it comes to tech and communications, glitches, that the breakdowns in communication, glitches in technology, and then there are some things, of course, that get blamed on Mercury retrograde that it has absolutely nothing to do about. But typically, what happens when Mercury is retrograde is, and it happens about 3 times a year. So when it shows up, messages tend to get crossed, technology doesn't work as planned, and then plans shift. Like you can have something set up, plan to go a certain way, and then here comes Mercury retrograde and the plans fall out, they get changed. It actually can impact your travel too. So all these different things are what we see happening on the surface, but beneath the surface, when all of that is going on, we tend to forget about like posing that question. Okay, so what is this all about? Where's the lesson, so to speak, in this? And I see it as an invitation, cosmic invitation, if you will, to just to slow down, to step back and to realign. And that is hard. That it's hard for us to do sometimes as women because we're wearing all of those hats. But I see it as an invitation to slow down and to be able to really step back instead of allowing and being part of the chaos that can ensue if you're really caught up in it. Just to step back and look at, okay, so what's going on? We see the disruptions with not just the tech and the communication and plans and whatnot, but because things tend to slow down, our decision making, our mental clarity and timing, those things, we're moving slower. So those things are impacted as well, not just the tech stuff and the
Okay.
communications.
That would be in some cases a good thing, I would
Oh,
imagine.
yes.
It's almost like what I say about menopause. So many people feel that menopause happens to them because of all the stuff that goes on, but it depends
Right.
on how can we frame that because menopause happens for you. When it comes
Mhm.
to Mercury retrograde, when as I'm hearing you explain it, this seems very similar. It does happen to us, but there's some good things that can come out of it, right?
Yes. And I think that's really what gets missed here. And I think Mercury gets a bad rap sometimes too, because it's just like anything else. Like it doesn't happen to us. It happens for us, right? There's always an opportunity there. So if I don't see it as something that's negative. And yeah, okay, some not so great things happen during those cycles, but Mercury retrograde reveals the things that we've been overlooking. It it reveals the places and spaces where we have rushed, where we're misaligned. And we all experience it differently. But overall, there is say, a heightened sensitivity along with that mental fog and the slower thinking. Our minds don't necessarily process things as quickly and it's not because we're off. Sometimes people see it's okay, Mercury retrograde, I'm not here. No, you're not off. You just have to shift and look at things internally and then you can look at things externally as well to see what needs to be clarified, what needs to be reviewed, and look at those external disruptions as a pathway to the inner clarity, right? Because it's not about the surface stuff.
And it's really interesting because in midlife, women really almost have an intrinsic need to begin to peel back the layers and see what things really mean and what's their why and what's next and everything else. So I could see how they could possibly leverage the energy that comes from retrograde. How could they do that instead of fighting it and looking at something negative? How can they reframe that to have it work for them?
I think when it hits and when those things tend to slow down and whatnot, it's important for us to stop and to look at because if we don't, we experience it in that chaotic way. And so it's important to go with that flow. And that's where we tend to resistance comes up for us because no, we don't want to slow down. We're moving at like the speed of sound, the speed of light, but we have to slow down and look at things in a different way. Like you can be part of that chaos or you can go with that flow. And it's an opportunity for us to reassess. So it's a time to look at what's working, what's not working, not just on a level of when it comes to productivity, but when it comes to life in general. We can look at all these different areas of our lives to see, okay, what's working, what's not working, and then reflect on where we're still trying to make something work that doesn't fit anymore. Because that's one of the things Mercury retrograde does. It exposes those things that like, hey, this needs to be fixed or this needs to be adjusted. It shows you those things and the gaps. So it's a good time to audit your systems, your tools, your routines, and decide whether something supports you or whether it doesn't. And we can say the same thing too, I think, for people, because during those cycles, people come up. People from the past tend to come up. Those kinds of things get revisited. So it's a good time to look to see, okay, what do I need to reassess here? And then it's a great time to reconnect, to return to your why. As like you and I know this as business owners, right? You get so busy, you're into what needs to be done, you are working with clients, and sometimes we don't create that space to go back and say, okay, let me go back to square one. Let me remind myself of not just what I do, but why I'm doing it and reconnecting with ourselves. So I think that's where journaling comes in when it comes to like your intentions, revisiting your commitments, your goals. Maybe some of those need to go. Maybe you need to create some new ones and just reconnect and focus on connections that are really meaningful. And then
when I first came across talking to you about this, you had posted something on, it was either LinkedIn or Facebook about, and it reframed it in such a way where it made it really real. So for someone who is just now maybe hearing about this, maybe for the first time or doesn't know much about it, what is the definition of Mercury retrograde? What's a basic explanation of what it is?
What the basic explanation is that Mercury seemingly, it doesn't actually slow down, but it seems to, from our point of view, because Earth and Mercury move at much different paces. So it's basically, I don't know, like it's an illusion, but right. But it still causes that slowdown. And so when we see it that way, oh, okay, when we really see what it really is, instead of being confused or not knowing, when we really see it for what it is, we can really see that, oh, okay, this is an opportunity to slow down, to go within and listen to that inner voice. Not so much what's out here in the world and the things and the people that, we're doing and that we're seeing, but to really reassess, reorganize, get rid of things that are cluttering your space, things that are cluttering your mind too, and reorganize things and refresh things. And then I see the end of the retrograde as a time where it's like after having done all of that, the reassessing and the reorganizing and whatnot, is a really good time to reiterate and to reintegrate. And so allowing our focus to be on that mental clarity and looking at what we have reassessed and what we've reorganized, the things that we've restructured and changed, and looking to see how what we've done now can support us to move forward, right? So you slow down, you do these things, and then you have what you need to support you to move forward once the retrograde is over. And so that means looking at things in, say, a reflective way, asking, okay, what lessons or adjustments from the retrograde, like what feels worthy? of carrying forward. Like, what things am I taking with me? What things have I changed or shifted that are going to support me moving forward? And so that means choosing maybe like one thing, one insight that you've had during that time to maybe integrate into a workflow, or maybe something new that you want to present to clients, or a new way that you want to work with clients, right? Or and just looking at your personal life too and how that looks. But when we go within and we reassess our systems, how we're operating, the relationships that we have, and we get to the point where we're reorganizing, we are revisiting. Like, it's a great time to revisit unfinished products, or projects, I should say. Products, if you have them business wise, right? But it's a great time to do that and just reevaluate where you are. Audit your priorities and your commitments, because sometimes those lines get blurred because we're caught up in the day to day. So we don't come back to our square and work from there. But that's the perfect time for that, to slow down, like Mercury appears to slow down, and go within and start posing those questions as to what we need to reassess, where we need to realign, and what it's bringing up for us.
How often does Mercury retrograde come?
3 times a year. So we are what? 2 days out from the shadow right now for the current one. And of course, it's an ongoing thing, so nothing's really say dated, so to speak, but 3 times a year. So we've got the next one starts February 25th. And then you have another one, let's see, what would it be? February, May, and then August, September, depending upon how the days fall. So 3 times a year, we go through this cycle. And if you look at it, like everything, we know this, right? Everything works and flows and seasons and cycles. And Mercury retrograde is a part of that. And when we step away from, oh, Mercury retrograde, I'm just going to shut everything down and I'm going to be offline for a month. Instead of doing that, when we see it as the opportunity that it is, then we can make it work for us. It doesn't have to just only work for those of us who have it retrograde in our natal chart, or in our birth chart. Things tend to work very well for us. And I say us because it's natal for me. It works. It's like you're watching a movie or a TV show with all these different things going on, and it doesn't really impact you the way that it impacts other people. But we still have that opportunity.
It sounds like it's almost like an opportunity for a reset.
Yes. Yeah.
We're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we're going to talk more about midlife and Mercury retrograde and how this whole thing works. We'll be right back. Let me ask you, how often are you dealing with congestion, sinus pressure, or allergies and just pushing through it? If that's you, I want to share something that really made a difference for me. It's called Sonu, a drug-free, FDA-approved therapy that uses personalized sound waves to help open your nasal passages. What makes it unique is that the sound waves are custom tuned to your facial structure. So it's designed specially for you. When I started using it, I noticed a real shift, especially with that stuffy nose I used to wake up with every morning. It actually helped me breathe clearly again. Those gentle vibrations work through your sinus cavities too, calming inflammation, reducing congestion, and supporting natural airflow. And it even works with your nervous system to reduce swelling. No medication needed. If you want to check it out for yourself, click the link on my show page to learn more.
It seems like Mercury retrograde would be a good time to do a reset. And as you mentioned, kind of like a reevaluation of where you are. So given that, what kinds of things should women be looking for to help leverage this time? What kinds of things do they need to be thinking about to leverage maybe more productivity?
I think it's about looking to see where those gaps are. So reassessing, like, what are you using, for instance, to help you get through your days productivity wise? If there's something that you're using, it's not working, it never worked, or maybe it worked, it served you for a season, and now there's been a change of some sort and it's not working for you, it's a great time to look at that and see, okay, so this isn't working. What else can I use? What else can I do? Looking at how you work. Do things tend to flow for you during the course of the day? And really looking at how cycles impact you. Because again, when we're talking about women in menopause, that's an ongoing thing. And so we've got those ebbs and the flows, both mentally and physically, and all the other changes that happen and that we experience. And so you have to look at things in terms of, okay, today, my energy may not be so great. It might be the whole week. So looking at how you structure those particular days versus like just a regular day would be for you. And to go back and say like retweak, if you are, say, a coach or what do they call it online, a digital creator, it's a great time to go back and look at your content, like what needs to be changed, what needs to be reworked, taking old things and reworking them in different ways, reorganizing your business, your house, your electronic files, because they get just as cluttered as a filing cabinet can. So I think those particular things and using tools, maybe Notion, if that's not too cumbersome for you, or just something as simple as an Excel spreadsheet, depending upon what you're doing, looking at what tools you can use that will help refresh and refine, because it's all about the RE. So refresh, refine, reconnect, reorganize. And I think when we're talking about women 40 and over, we have to reconnect. We've got to focus on not just our why and why we do what we do if we're still working, but we've got to focus on what truly motivates us. What truly motivates us? Do we need to or want to make some changes life-wise, work-wise, family-wise? And I think journaling, again, comes in as a really good thing to do, because it's something that you can look back at over the course of that retrograde or over the course of a year. You can go back and look to see where you were, the new commitments that you made, the goals that you got rid of, and the new ones that you took on, just to see that progress.
When was the last Mercury retrograde? You said one was February 25th. When was the last one?
That one was November. Mid-November.
That was right around the time when one of my social media accounts was hacked.
Oh, wow.
I was beside myself because I just happened to have had my best week after working months of building up my following. And I had a lot of cash in there that I had not transferred over to my bank. And it was my fault. I wasn't on top of it. And they were asking me questions and I was answering until finally I was like, wait a minute, why are they asking me that? So I went to try to sign back in. It was gone. And it took 3 weeks for me to get my account back. And that 3 weeks, at first I was very frustrated because I had all these plans, what I was going to do on this platform and everything else. And then I said, you know what? This is an opportunity for me to focus on some other things that I've been thinking about, but I haven't really done yet. And that was how the Midlife Awakening Summit was born.
Okay.
From that. So I was just thinking, that's why I began to think that I think that was right around Mercury retrograde, and Mercury retrograde can happen for you if you allow it. If you allow it. In my experience, because what my thing always is with Mercury retrograde, technological stuff. In fact, we've experienced that a couple of times when you and I have tried to record this podcast. Okay. Yeah. We tried to record it way back in September or something like that, maybe in August. And now we are in February. Things kept happening, and some of it was during Mercury retrograde. But I do believe that everything happens for a reason. That may sound kind of hokey, but I do trust God. I trust the universe when it comes to that. And I also know that sometimes things happen in order to open you up to something else that you're supposed to be doing instead. And absolutely. If you get really frustrated or angry about it, all you're doing is blocking your blessings in terms of what else may show up during this time. And that's what I really wanted to point out today in our conversation, is that Mercury retrograde, it doesn't have to be a bad thing. It could be something towards your good.
Exactly. I think we there's this, I don't know if I'd call it a habit, but we tend to react instead of responding when things happen. I had a client once, this is years ago, but I had a client who, here comes Mercury retrograde, her entire laptop wiped.
Wow.
No explanation. And she didn't have it backed up.
Ooh.
Yeah. And so she had to start from scratch. Just piecing things together. And it's something that I highly recommend to every client that I have, but she hadn't done it.
Sometimes when you have to recreate something and you don't have anything left over from what you started because it's been wiped out or whatever, I have always found that what comes back is so much better.
Yes.
And it's interesting because you work so hard to get to a certain place in your business or whatever, and then something happens and it just blows it all up. And you're like, oh God, what am I going to do? But isn't it amazing that somehow, some way, you're able to piece things back together and you look back at it, what you were able to do was actually better than what you had done before.
Yeah. That's another example of how things don't happen to you. They happen for you.
I think midlife is really all about the reframe because there's so many things that can be perceived as negative. The reality is our bodies are still trying to figure out a way to support us. And the symptoms that we have is the body's way of communicating to let you know that they need help. I need help, hot flashes. That means that you need whatever you need to bring down the cortisol levels and bring up the estrogen levels or whatever. If your body didn't do that, then you would be operating with less than what you need and would definitely be further compromised for more chronic disease and other kinds of things that could happen as a result of taking care of whatever's going on internally. So actually, I look at this stage of life, and it was interesting because as we talked about before, menopause never ends. It starts maybe between 45 and 55, maybe earlier than that. And then once you're menopausal, you're always menopausal for the rest of your life. It's just that the symptoms might lessen over time, or they might change, or things may come up that you didn't even know were going on that were caused by the lack of estrogen in your system, like osteoporosis or Alzheimer's or heart disease. Those all are grounded in, for many women, the lack of estrogen. But if you listen to your body and then act on it, the chances of you being able to figure out what you need to do to replace those hormones so that you can live a much more active and vibrant life, it increases. So that's how I look at retrograde. It's just another tool to help us maneuver this thing called life. And if you were to talk with someone who's experiencing all these different things happening at once and they feel like things are out of control, how do you talk them down from the cliff? How do you get them to realize that this is not the end all and be all? This is just a phase. It's going to
Yeah, I would say in a nutshell, it would be to realize that this is the point where it's time to ask yourself, where can I refine? How can I simplify things? How can I realign or close the loops? Because that's what the Mercury retrograde exposes. And when we do that, you start to bring awareness to the situation. When you stop and you pose those questions, you start to bring awareness to the situation. Again, if you allow for it, because you have to allow for it. Resistance in that situation isn't going to help. But when we allow for it, we get the awareness that we need about that situation. And that gives you back control. So many people, when it comes to the retrograde, it's like they feel like they've lost control, like they are not in control, like Mercury is having its way with their world. I think that is just not, it's that opportunity. And sometimes it can be like some of them are pretty rough. And sometimes even with that awareness, it can still feel like that. But when we allow for that and we ask ourselves those questions, we have the control back. We have that power and that energy that we may have just said, okay, whatever, I'm just going to roll with whatever Mercury dishes out.
Mercury retrograde can certainly give you a testimony, that's for sure.
Oh,
What is
yes.
another experience in your toolkit that gives you the opportunity to think about it and say, this too shall pass?
Yes.
And nothing lasts forever. I know I used to say that a lot when I was in labor, because sometimes that's what Mercury retrograde is like, being in
Yeah.
labor. No, eventually it will pass. And if you're lucky, if you allow it, you end up with something really beautiful later
You
on.
do.
Time
You
to get
do.
going through it. It doesn't feel that way.
Yes.
It's basically like when you're having babies and you say, I will never do this again. This is it. Blah, 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 blah. And then next thing you know,
Right.
months later, like me, I'm pregnant again. But it really, I don't know, during this phase of life, because there is so much going on in the world, I always look for opportunities to see the humor and the key learning in things. I think it's a healthy approach. And also, it's not about being in denial that what you're going through is difficult, or in denial that things that are happening that you didn't plan and things are messed up. But it is an opportunity to reframe, as you said, reframe, reset, re-energize, reinvigorate, reassess where you
Yes.
are, and taking those key learnings and turning it into something that maybe you would not have turned it into had you not gone through the Mercury retrograde.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Sheila, thank you so much for being on the V.I.B.E Living podcast. It's just so wonderful having you here today. And before we go, I know that I want to make sure that everybody knows that you have a free download here. And the free download, tell us about that. What is that about?
The download it's actually a video playlist, focuses on your productivity persona. So you take a quick 60-second quiz, and then you end up with the right video playlist for you. And it gives you insight on who you are in your relationship with time, and starts to show you a little bit more about how you operate when it comes to time and productivity. And I've had people have a lot of aha moments around it. And there's also a video there that'll tell you what kinds of tools specifically work for your productivity persona.
Wow, that is awesome. So everybody take a look at the show notes. You will find Sheila Hawkins' productivity quiz, as well as all of her social media and website. I think you should check her out if you're looking for ways to enhance your productivity in a way that feels good and not overwhelming. Thanks so much for being here. And thanks to all of you for listening to the V.I.B.E Living podcast. I just want to put a little bug in your ear before we go. Depending on when you might have listened to this podcast, a few weeks ago, I had something called the Midlife Awakening Summit. And this summit was for women over 40 who are looking for ways to enhance their midlife experience by taking a look at what it's doing for them spiritually, mentally, and also body-wise also. We had a fabulous time. And I just wanted to let you know that all the topics that were covered are so interesting. You might want to go and check it out on my website. Website is vibewellnesswoman.com. And there are bundles there that you can buy, and also get an automatic membership to the V.I.B.E Wellness Woman Network. And what these accumulation of videos and downloads are all things that are going to enhance your midlife experience, give you a different way of looking at things, reframing some things, and also giving you some information that so many people don't know, but we need to know about it because it's our bodies. So just go to my website at the V.I.B.E Wellness Woman Network. In fact, there's a link down in the show page, and click on that and take a look at what the Midlife Awakening Summit was all about, and take a look at the pricing for the bundles. I guarantee you there's valuable information there. Thanks so much for listening, everybody. Don't forget to listen to all the other wonderful podcasts that we have here, and don't forget to vibe. Bye-bye, everybody. Thanks for listening to the V.I.B.E Living podcast. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment, and share this podcast. Have a fantastic day, and don't forget to vibe. Bye-bye, everybody.